It's October, my fiendish friends. Time to kickstart the Halloween season, and no better time than to bring you my 31 favorite horror movies of all time. Some may agree with my selections and their placements, while others might think my list is full of shit. And if I rewatch this video in 6 months, I'm probably going to think they're right. But for today, I'm sticking with this one. Alright, no more lollygagging. Let's get to the biscuits. Kicking off the list at number 31, Stephen King's Maximum Overdrive. See, I told you not everyone was going to agree with my list. Anyway, Earth passes into the tail of a huge comet, sending every machine on Earth, be it pop machines, electric knives, or lawnmowers, on a murderous rampage. A convoy of big rigs, led by the evil-faced Happy Toy Company delivery truck, hold a group of misfits hostage in a truck stop demanding to be refueled. Not the greatest movie that ever came out. It's like Roadhouse. I'd never seek it out to watch it, but if I'm flipping channels and come across it, I'm watching the whole thing. And if someone tries to turn that channel, they'd be wiping their ass with a hook the next time they take a dump. Number 30, When a Stranger Calls from 1979. This movie provided the inspiration for me to prank call my sister every time she was babysitting. She always knew it was me, but I kept doing it and barely able to make it through a "Have you checked the children?" without snickering my ass off before whistling into the phone as loud as I could before hanging up. She wasn't freaked out, but the movie scared the dickens out of me every time I saw it. At number 29, The Legend of Boggy Creek. This was one of those 70s documentary-style horror movies that gave me the utter willies. It's about a Bigfoot-type creature that inhabits the swamps of southern Arkansas. The movie claims to be based on true events, with the alleged creature terrorizing the townsfolk and then stealing hogs for food. Was it really true? There's only one way to find out. Head for Arkansas and keep your eyes peeled for a 7-foot monster covered in hair, and keep your eyes open for that ghastly scream echoing from the hickory trees. At number 28, from the silent era, it's the German expressionist horror movie, The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. I'm not the biggest fan of silent movies, though a lot of them are considered classics in any era, but this one had a lasting effect on me. The actors, the complex storylines, the twist endings, the set pieces that defy the principles of basic geometry, all make for a movie that was masterful enough, even in the pioneering days of the art form, to make you shit yourself and have nightmares for a week. At number 27, Grave Encounters. A found footage film centering around the cast of a paranormal reality show who gets more than they bargain for when they film an episode inside an old abandoned asylum. The show's host is jaded at never really capturing the evidence that he's long sought, and you see him attempting to manufacture the paranormal activity for the sake of ratings. But the shit gets real when they try and exit the building when they've completed filming, only to find out the exit signs in this building really means you're not going anywhere. At number 26, The Blob from 1988, the remake. Need I say more? At number 25, The Dead Zone. I don't know if other actors were considered, but the movie would have been a massive flop had Christopher Walken not been cast in the lead. After a horrendous car accident leaves Johnny in a coma for 5 years, he awakens to find that every handshake is a window into the beyond. He can see the future, he can see the present, he can see your thoughts, and most of them are none too rosy. He's kind of a bad luck psychic, so if you're looking for good news, stay away from this guy. Number 24, The Town That Dreaded Sundown. This was another great 70s horror movie. Incidentally, I picked this over The Hills Have Eyes. Based on true events, it tells the story of a serial killer who wears a sack over his head and terrorizes the town of Texarkana. He kind of reminds me of Dr. Salvador from Resident Evil 4, but without the chainsaw. At number 23, Sleepaway Camp. I just couldn't get into this movie when it first came out. To me, it was another summer camp slasher flick riding on the Voorhees family coattails, but I grew to appreciate it in later years. At number 22, Dead Time Stories. I love anthology movies, and there's 2 more to go on this list. This one was a personal favorite when I was a teenager because it had everything. Cheese, sleaze, gore, humor. 3 glorified fairy tales told by an asshole uncle to his bratty nephew, but with some modifications tossed in that a child probably wouldn't want to hear. But damn, it's good stuff. At number 21, Killer Clowns from Outer Space. It took me a long time to even want to see this movie. It looked irritating at best, and it wasn't until a few years ago I saw some clips on YouTube and decided to give it a whirl as I had nothing better to do. And I thought it was great. Small town gets invaded by aliens that don't just look like clowns. They actually look like the kind of clowns that would chase you through a funhouse and drag you to hell when they catch you. At number 19, It's Alive. The trailer alone for this movie gave me nightmares when I was a kid. The plot follows the Davis family as they're about to add one more mouth to feed. Little did Mum know that the birth control pills that she was on would turn her bouncing bundle of joy into a raging, deformed killing machine with the cunning of a mongoose and the jumping skills of a slam dunk champion. Middle of the movie is a bit on the slow side, but when the shit gets good, it gets good. At number 18, the 1990 remake of The Night of the Living Dead. I'm a card-carrying Tom Savini sycophant, so when I learned he was directing the remake, I was on board before the movie even came out. A group of zombies trap a group of people in an old farmhouse. They're doing everything they can to survive amongst the constant bickering that always seems to be going on. Tony Todd was the perfect casting choice, and he carries this movie like a pro. Too bad he became one of them. Number 17, An American Werewolf in London. This movie gets an A+, a perfect blend of British humor, American gore, the best transformation scene in all the annals of horror, and if nothing else, it's worth it to see the Dr. Pepper guy butt naked stealing a balloon from that kid at the zoo. Number 16, Evil Dead Part 2. A slight retelling of the first movie with a bigger budget. Bruce Campbell is brilliant and gives a career-defining performance that cemented him and his character into pop culture royalty ever since. Number 15. We're over the halfway point now. Fright Night. I usually don't watch a lot of vampire movies. They never really made my socks roll up and down. But this movie did a great job of not falling into the operatic and gothic imagery that stenched the movie every time a coffin lid opened. It follows the standard cliches of the vampire without blasting O Fortuna every time the coffin lid opens. At number 14, knew Halloween had to be in there somewhere. Michael Myers, The Shape, and the word totally uttered no less than 400 times. At number 13, Friday the 13th Part 3, the best F-13 sequel, and bugger the ones that think Part 6 is. Richard Brooker is the best Jason, his borderline bow-legged gait, his hands always gnarled and outstretched at the same time, gave him a terrifying and unique look. The dream sequence at the end when he runs his fingernails along the edges of that window still freak me out to this day. At number 12, Creepshow. This movie is a true Triple Crown achievement, with Romero, Savini, and King pooling their untouchable talents into this five-tailed tour de force. Yeah, just watch it, that's all I can say. Number 11, Psycho 2. Yeah, who doesn't dig Norman Bates? Coming out over 2 decades after the original, I'm sure everyone thought it would be a flop. But Perkins, brilliant as he is, proves once again that a boy's best friend is his mother, and one of the best sequels of all time. Coming in at number 10, Southbound. I've been pumping the tires of this movie ever since I first saw it. It's a darker anthology, unlike the comic book nature of Creepshow. It's set in a town with little means of escape, with 5 stories that transition perfectly from one to the other. It doesn't spoon-feed you, but leaves you just enough mystery in its storytelling that you'll be thinking about it long after you've watched it. At number 9, Videodrome. James Wood is outstanding as the sleazy, smooth-talking president of a small cable channel that offers softcore pornography. While looking for something new to break the tedium of his programming, he gets lured into a bizarre virtual reality video world where your deepest fantasies become reality. It's the only movie I ever saw where a TV performs fellatio. It's a must-watch and one you'll never, ever forget. Number 8, Poltergeist. The Freeling family house, unknown to them, was built on a cemetery where only headstones were moved. The spirits of the departed were left to wander in the darkness looking for the light. The devil himself shows up to steal the family's youngest child and use her as a fake light to lure the wayward spirits to hell. Will they be able to save her in time? Well, of course they will. The movie was, if anything, predictable, but it's classic 80s and always worth a viewing. Number 7, The Exorcist. This movie was so far ahead of its time that I don't think its subject matter has ever been seriously rivaled. It's an icon of a horror and fully deserving of its Best Picture nomination. It's a story of irony as well as demonic possession. Father Marin is doing an archaeology dig in northern Iraq when he unearths like some weird ancient artifact. The demon he awakens from the dig zooms to Washington, possesses a 12-year-old girl, and now it's up to him to perform the exorcism, which ultimately kills him. Sorry about the spoiler. Oh, and Jason Miller was badass in this movie. At number 6, The Evil Dead, the birth movie of one of the best franchises in horror history. It's low budget, it's got continuity issues, visible crew, and acting that would make people who take this shit too seriously cringe. But it works. And if you ever come across a copy of the Book of the Dead, do yourself a favor and toss it in the fire, or hang on to it and get Bruce Campbell to sign it later. Alright, we're in the top 5. Jaws. I can't even begin to tell you how many times I've seen this movie, or how many times I've sang Spanish Ladies in public somewhere, just for the sake of being heard. I don't need to replay the plot. We've all seen it. Big Shark tries to eat an entire town, but luckily for them, Spielberg was hired to kill it. And the rest is history. Number 4, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Now we're getting into the serious favorites. The ones I could easily watch over and over. This movie didn't have cliches to copy from. They created them for everyone else. From the freaky killer to the final girl and every meat hook in between, this movie will see to it that every time you see a farmhouse in the middle of nowhere, you'll be hitting the gas. At number 3, Friday the 13th. This is easily the defining horror movie of my youth, and the catalyst for every slasher movie that came out for the rest of the decade. I was 12 years old when it came out, and we watched it over and over, and it never got old. Especially the arrow in the neck scene with Kevin Bacon. We'd all be like, okay, here it comes. Shut up for a second. Hey, you have to see this. They just don't make them like that anymore. At number 2, The Shining. Yeah. Some consider this movie a masterpiece. Some consider it as boring as whale shit. I've never labeled it as either, but it is a virtual one-man performance by Jack Nicholson. The rest of the cast were stand-ins at best, as he commanded the screen every time he was on it, which was pretty much the entire movie, except for maybe a couple of scenes that drifted in here and there. Its atmosphere wraps itself entirely around you and puts you directly into the hotel, or sitting on the toilet taking a dump when Jack and Grady enter the bathroom to discuss naughty children. And finally, at number 1, I didn't have to think too hard on this decision. Dawn of the Dead 78 is my favorite horror movie of all time. Zombies multiplying like rabbits, the actors were perfectly cast, the visual effects by Tom Savini were perfectly executed. I've seen this movie hundreds of times. I own several different versions, and come hell or high water, I'll be going to that Weekend of the Dead event that they always have at MONROEVILLE Mall.
Oh yes, I will be going.
So that's my list, up until now. A year from now it might be different. Something might come along and knock Dawn of the Dead out of that pole position. Would have to be a great fucking movie for that to happen, so we'll see. But thanks a million for watching, and thanks a billion for subscribing. Have a safe, spooky season, and we'll see you in the next video.